One of the things that has been questioned in the black church, particularly the medical community, has approached the black church because, as many of you know, the vaccinations are rolling out, dealing with COVID. But we're running seriously behind, and one of the big reasons is that there are all of these question marks about whether or not the vaccine is safe for our people. And to be honest about it, I don't know the answers to all of this stuff. What I do know is this. I sat under Dick Gregory for so long when he was alive. And one thing Gregory always said, he said, look, just follow what the rich white folk do. And I found that to be very, very accurate. He said just, you don't have to ask a whole lot of questions. Just follow what the rich white folk do. And a lot of my habits are based on that. That's why even when I travel at my office, at my house, I eat off of real silverware. There's a difference. I don't eat out of plastic. I don't eat out of regular stainless steel. I carry my silver fork and spoon with me. I eat off of real silver. There's a reason for that. But he said, just do what the rich white folk do. The rich white folk are getting vaccinated. They're not dying. We're dying at multiple rates of anybody else, and we scared of the vaccine. So I can't just guarantee you 100% that the vaccine is safe and you're not going to have any issues. But what I can tell you is this. I was in New Orleans, flew back in early this morning. I was at lunch with some of the people who helped produce our show, the officials in New Orleans. And as we were sitting there with some of our people from Bronner Brothers and some of the people from the New Orleans convention and their government, one of our people was still suffering the effects of COVID, and they'd had it for a long time. One of the ladies from New Orleans, she said, look, I caught COVID over a year ago. When I got COVID, I started having heart palpitations, and I started having when my heart was just racing. I've been over COVID for a year, and I missed 2 days of work this week because my heart's still racing. So I don't know what the vaccine doing, but I know what COVID is doing. I know people who have been over COVID for weeks or months or even over a year, and they still got problems. Now, maybe the vaccine may do something to a few folk, and to be honest about it, it's going to kill some folk. All medicines do. Aspirin kills people. It's a law of statistics. Any medicine, peanuts kill folk. They do. Strawberries kill folk. I mean, there are some people who have anaphylactic shock from vegetables and fruits and nuts. So, yeah, there's a certain percentage that it will create a serious issue. But from the laws of statistics, especially if you have any concerns about the strength of your immune system, if you catch colds, if you got some of those underlying conditions, if you are overweight, 80% of all the people who die from COVID overweight. If you overweight, you fit in that category. So look, let me tell you people, if you got any of those underlying conditions, if you got any concerns that your immune system is not rock solid iron and you can stand up and laugh at COVID, you need to be in that vaccination line. Because COVID is messing up some folk. I don't know about the vaccine, but I know about COVID. And I know the rich white folk getting it. So I know the rich white folk getting it and the black folk ain't. So which line do you think I want to be in? That's just as simple as that. It's a whole lot of conspiracy theories going around. 90% of the stuff it has no basic in fact. Talking about, oh, they got a microchip in there that's going to track me. You don't need a microchip to track you, and you got a cell phone with your location turned on. What you need a microchip to track you for? And you don't go anywhere without your cell phone. Some of this stuff is just crazy. They got all this stuff And if anything, the vaccine may change my DNA. You know COVID just changes some DNA. So they got black folk where they are afraid of the vaccine and not scared of the virus. I just left New Orleans, and I mean, them folk was packed in the street dancing. I mean, the airlines this morning, like when I came in through the airport, the security line literally was wrapped up through baggage claim. Folk don't give a, they traveling, they going, and I have never, when I got off of the plane during the Thanksgiving holidays, I had never seen that high of a percentage of black folk traveling in my life. Most of the time when you go through the airport, it's about 85% white. This was about 75% black. I said, these Negroes going everywhere. They are not, and now they got them stimulus checks. The line just wrapped everywhere. So people, I am telling you, don't be fooled by all this crazy conspiracy stuff. It has no basis in science. Now, like I said, I can't guarantee you that you're not going to have an issue with the vaccine, but what I can tell you is that now, fortunately, we've had multiple cases here at the Ark of COVID. We've had not one death, and we've had not one hospitalization. So we have been really blessed, but also here we do stuff where we're stronger. See, I don't know whether I've come in contact with COVID or not, but I know it ain't bothered me if I have. And I'm not afraid of it, but I know I got to keep my system in shape where I'm not going to get, I'm going to be in that 50% of people who are asymptomatic that COVID simply does not bother. But you need to be sure. If you're not going to take that vaccine, you need to be real sure your immune system is really, really strong. You're not going to get sick, and you ain't got a whole lot of underlying conditions. And you can strip down, look yourself in the mirror and say, this body ready for COVID. That's what you need to be able to do. You need to be able to strip down, look in the mirror and say, this body, if you got stuff rolling everywhere, it ain't ready for COVID. You need to be in the vaccination line. It's just as simple as that. So these are some things that I just want to talk with you about that for just a minute. The vast majority of America needs to take the vaccine. It's just as simple as that. Now, some people, they may not, but they really need to be sure their system is strong enough to where their body can laugh at COVID without an issue. And if you don't have that assurity, you need to be in that vaccination line, just as simple as that. So I wanted to talk with everybody about that because now it's going to be available for everybody. And I'm not saying, I don't know where the virus came from. I don't know what all is behind this. And there may be some insidious stuff behind it. But the point is this. When there's usually an insidious plot, the public rarely has it right. Anytime you see a big crowd going in one direction, you can just about be sure that's the wrong direction. And I was at the Springs, and I was listening to all these folk talking about the RNA. I was saying to myself, they don't even know what RNA and DNA mean. And I knew they didn't. And they were talking about all of the genetic changes. You don't know that's deoxynucleic acid. They don't know that. But all of a sudden, all these folk, they're geneticists. So take that vaccine. If you are not 100% sure in the strength of your immune system, take that vaccine. And they say, well, they may be covering up some of the folk that's dying. Probably so. But I know personally too many people who have had COVID who are still having effects from it, calling long COVID. We got people in the office like that. They still having effects from long COVID. So I don't know what the vaccine going to do, but I know what COVID does. So if you're not 100% sure about the strength of your immune system, take that vaccine. That's just the wisdom. Don't listen to all this conspiracy stuff. It's totally not founded, and the science is just way off. And the stuff makes no sense whatsoever. No, Bill Gates is not the Antichrist. So it's just all this crazy stuff. But don't get wrapped up into all of that. Don't travel down that wormhole. If you're going to follow somebody, I'm like Dick Gregory. He has a whole lot of sense. do what the rich white folk do. And when you do what they do, don't do what we do. Do what the rich white folk do. Because that's why. And those of you in here who are nursing, you know who's dying in the hospital from COVID. It's mostly us. So don't do what we do. You do what the rich white folk. They in the line getting that vaccine. You need to get that vaccine if you're not 100% sure about the full strength of your immune system. So that's that, and hopefully that's going to help somebody avoid an illness that you do not have to go through. Welcome to Brothers of the Word, because, brother, you need the Word. Now, as you know, I am in the midst of a series called Thorns, and it's the 7 thorns of life. And God had told me to speak about this, but he told me to ask my youngest son, George, what were the 7 thorns of life? And George began instantly rattling them off. And he said the first was relationships, and the second was finance. And that's where I am today, on that second one. But after I preached last week's message on relationship, it just hit me. Relationships follow the Pareto Principle. Just about everything follows the Pareto Principle. Some of you may not know what the Pareto Principle is. It's in common vernacular called the 80-20 rule. And basically, the 80-20 rule states that 20% of the people get 80% of the stuff. It'll say that 20% of the people produce 80% of the results. It goes down through all kinds of things. It talks about how, for example, even with Jesus, 12 of his disciples remained out of 70, roughly 20%. So even with Jesus' disciples, only 20%, actually 17%, stayed with him. With the church, 20% of the people contribute 80% of the money. 20% of the folk in the church do 80% of the work. You all know that? Be the same small group do 80% of the work. It's the same thing with almost everything. So this law applies when I've talked about relationships, how only 1 in 4 marriages was truly fulfilled. It follows the Pareto Principle. And you can look at that and you can see it almost in just the richest men in the world. The top 4 men in the world, Elon Musk right now is the richest man in the world. He on his 3rd marriage, I think. And the woman he just had the child with, I think they kind of on shaky ground. Elon is number 1. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, is number 2. He just busted up with his wife not long ago. Bill Gates is number 3. And Warren Buffett is number 4. Out of the 4 richest men in the world, only 1 of them has a solid marriage where they're in the same marriage with the first wife. Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett I read his book. His relationship story is real interesting. Now, he's with his second wife. He actually separated from the first wife. And the first wife had moved to another city. And she was in a restaurant, and a waitress came. And his first wife said, this woman would be good for Warren. And she actually hired the woman to go work and take care of her ex-husband. I said, that ain't no black woman. I said, so. But anyway, once the first wife died, Warren married that woman that his first wife sent. So that's the story of Warren Buffett. But out of the 4 richest men in the world, only 1 of them has a solid, stable marriage with the first wife. So even they followed the Pareto Principle. And that's why when I talked about it, I began to tell you, look, if for those of you who are not married, don't let that thing sweat you, because this marriage business is not easy, and only 1 out of 4 marriages get it right. So as we get ready to see, Elijah even talked about in his last message, he said a study showed that only 20% of people are happy. That goes right back to that Pareto rule. It's the 80-20 rule. Don't get mad about the rule. It's like what Jesus said, them who hath it shall be added unto. To those who have not, even that they think they have will be taken away from them. Don't get mad about the law. You get on the right side of the law. Don't get mad about the 80-20 rules. Ain't but 20% of the folk happy. You get in that 20. See, don't fuss about the law. You get in line with the law so you get your life in the principles. That's why I said these statistics, I told you last week, the statistics have nothing to do with you. Yes, the statistics may say this, but it's just like when I'm talking about the pandemic. I know what the statistics say. The statistics say if you're black, you got a certain issue. If you're over a certain age, you got a certain issue. I said, that ain't me. It ain't got nothing to do with me. It's not going to affect me. It's not going to make me sick. I am not going to be in those negative statistics. I'm going to be in the top 20%. So that's the mentality. So remember, statistics have nothing to do with you, but they're going to affect you if you do the same thing everybody else does. So today we're talking about the thorn of finance. And finance can indeed be a serious thorn because money is an issue. It is still the number one cause of divorce is money. Money can be a thorn. When your money is funny, you got some issues. But the stats go right along with that. Only 20% of the population is truly comfortable with their money. 80% is not. So I'm going to just kind of give you some things about finance. I'm going to give you some rules about finance. You've heard most of these before, but sometimes it helps to just reiterate these. The number one rule is this. You need to hang out with some financially wise people. Simple as that. If you hang out with some financially wise people, put the first slide up on the screen. Now this slide is actually, that's Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And you see what that says? It says basically, if you want to change yourself, you change the people who you hang out with. And that makes all of the difference in the world. If you hang out with financially wise people, it will take you to a different place because they talk different, they think different, they buy different, they spend different. They'll do all this different stuff if you hang out with financially wise folk. If you hang out with broke folk, where do you think that will take you? It's just, I don't mean to be condescending on anybody, but that's just the raw truth of it. If you hang out with broke folk, the habit of broke folk, and it really has nothing to do with how much you earn. It has to do with the mentality of how you handle your money. It's just as simple as that. So number one, hang out with financially wise people. We have the Render My Money class here on the first Friday of the month for the first 6 months of the year. You can come to the Render My Money class, you get all of this wisdom. But you got to come where the wisdom is of how to handle your money. Number two, you need to get a clear financial vision. Now, who you hang out with will often determine what your financial vision is. Because who you hang out with sets your vision. It'll set on what they're just talking about. Put up the second slide. Just who you hang out with determines your financial vision. Now this basically talks about when you're in school, they tell you got to have a paper's got to be a minimum of 5 pages. When you get out in the world, man, say, explain it to me in 7 seconds, or I'm out of here. You ought to be able to explain your financial vision to somebody in 7 seconds. Of exactly of my sons, the one who has the clearest financial vision is Josie's. And Josie's is 21 years old. He said, Daddy, when I was 21, the minute I turned 21, he said, I had $21,000 saved up. He said, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30 years old. And he's got his plan, and he's working at it on figuring out how he's going to be a millionaire by the time he's 30 years. He said, Daddy, he said, number one, he said, I'm going to buy me a house, but I'm not moving out. He said, I'm going to stay right here. He said, I'm going to buy a house, but I'm going to buy the house. I am going to pay a note on the house, but I'm going to rent the house out to pay the note and to give me some additional money so the house becomes an investment. But I'm going to stay right here under your roof. So that's his part of his financial plan. But he's got a clear plan. I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I am 30. And he said, I will be fully financially. There's a whole group of young people who are, they're operating under what's called the FIRE principle, which is financial independence, retire early. That's what they want to do. They work hard, they save, they got this whole outline of program. If you cut down your expenses, if you save a whole lot of money, by the time you hit this age, you can retire. And there's a whole movement of that, but they have a vision of what they want to do. So what's your money vision? What's your money vision? Most money vision for most folk who are in the broke category, see, the shorter your vision is, more than likely the broker you are. If your vision is, I just want to make it to Friday. And if I make it to Friday, I can go to Walmart. Or if I make it to Friday, I can go buy this, or I can go get this dress, or I can go get this suit, or I can go get this car, I can go get this. The shorter your financial vision, or as a general principle, the broker you are, the longer your vision is, your wealth will accumulate, and eventually the richer you will be. So what is your financial vision? So number one, hang out with financially wise people. Financially wise people will impart a vision into you. And they'll correct you when you're about to go do something stupid. Yeah, I'm going to go get this car. Yeah, this thing got 485 horsepower. How much is it going to cost you? Well, I can get it for, my note not going to be but $1,200 a month. What kind of gas does it burn? Premium. How much gas mileage does it get? Oh, it gets about 8 miles a gallon. So the problem is, a financially wise person will tell you, don't buy that car. Don't sink your money into that. And a real financially wise person will tell you, don't buy the car that's that kind of car until you can pay for it cash 3 times over. There's nothing wrong with you having a big muscle car or a fine ride and all that kind of stuff. But you don't need to have all of your future finances tied up in a ride that's depreciating fast as I don't know what. The one I know who's earned the most money, I have lunch with him once a month. He drives up in a 1980 Tahoe. And the man could literally buy a whole fleet of cars. But he just won't spend the money, and he's been like that. So his money just constantly accumulates. So when you hang out with folk who are financially wise, they will impart within you and change your financial vision. What is your financial vision? Most people now are getting this stimulus check. And that's as far as that vision goes. I'm going to get this check, child. I'm going to be gone when I get. That's why the line was so big at the airport this morning. The stimulus check stimulates the economy, but who do you think is stimulated? It's the rich folks stimulated. That's who stimulated. The poor folk ain't stimulated. 7 days after they get that money, it's gone. And the rich people are stimulated, and the folk who get the check, there's nothing wrong with getting a check. I would get that check if I could. Nothing wrong with getting the check. But it's the mentality of what you do with the check that makes the difference. So, number one, hang out with financially wise people. Number two, get a clear financial vision. Number three, focus on small things first. Proverbs 13:11 says this: dishonest money dwindles away, but he who gathers money little by little makes it grow. Put up picture number 3. And that's, here it's just talking about if you focus on making $1 first, then you focus on making $10, then $100, then $1,000, and so on. If you start with little things first, and little things turn into big things. So when you start with When I go out with the most successful financial fella I know, we take a trip every year. And this dude just got money, he just got money just rolling everywhere. We get ready to go to breakfast. He comes in there. He's got these coupons clipped out to Denny's. Got more money than anybody, but he got some coupons clipped out to go to Denny's for breakfast. That's why he's got more money than anybody. So when you start saving little by little by little, eventually that little by little, it adds up and it becomes big. But he who gathers money little by little makes it grow. Put up the next picture. So just these things that happen. Now see, this picture here, that left line says, that's what's called the GRQ line. That's the get rich quick. We want to get rich quick. The get rich quick line is long. Everybody wants to get rich quick and get rich easy. But when you try to get rich quick, the vast majority of time, all that stuff does is end up taking your money. See, the line to the slow with stocks and investments and mutual funds, the slow accumulation, folks don't want to fool with that. I don't want to spend 20 years trying to get rich. I want to get rich next week. I don't want to spend two things. I don't want to spend time, and I don't want to spend effort. I want to get rich quick and easy. 9 out of 10 times, those get-rich schemes only benefit those who putting on the scheme. So you got to learn how to just put stuff little by little. You slowly build, and it changes your money and your finances. Number 4, buy assets, not liabilities. Buy assets, not liabilities. I try to train my children. Let me tell you how to tell a difference in an asset and a liability. An asset is something, if you buy it today, next year it's worth more. A liability is if you buy it today, next year it's worth less. That's the way you tell the difference between an asset and a liability. If you spend most of your money buying liabilities, you move to the broke end. If you spend most of your money buying assets, you move to the rich end. When I was in New Orleans, I went to the movie, and I went to the movie at a mall called the Canal Place Mall. Got this real high-end mall. So I'm coming out of the movie, and I see this line wrapped around, and it's got about 90% of us in the line. So I'm saying, what store is that? I go to see what store it is. It's Louis Vuitton. I said, what are all these Negroes doing in this Louis Vuitton line? Everything in Louis Vuitton is super high. It's nothing wrong with you buying Louis Vuitton. But it is something wrong with you buying Louis Vuitton with your stimulus check money. It's something real wrong with that. So when we don't have a mentality, and there were 2 stores that had lines, and the vast majority of people in the line was black folk. And that was Louis Vuitton and Tiffany's. So I'm saying, why are we wrapped around the wall buying stuff that we have no business buying? And you go in there and you buy you a $5,000 or $1,000 Louis Vuitton bag. Next year, that $1,000 Louis Vuitton bag, you can't sell for $100. It's a drop-in bag. It's a liability. And when you spend your money buying liabilities and not assets, you got to think in the mentality of don't buy a Louis Vuitton bag, go buy some stock in Louis Vuitton. And that changes the way we think. Do you realize that if you hit Tesla, Elon Musk he's the richest man in the world right now. We have a Tesla. I bought that Tesla in about 3 years ago for my wife. But I look at it and I said, sweetheart, for the money that I spent on the Tesla, if I had bought Tesla stock, that car cost $61,000. I said, if I had spent and bought $61,000 worth of Tesla stock 3 years ago. Now you know my rich friend, I tried to get him to buy a Tesla. I said, man, look, you got all this money sitting up. Why don't you go buy your Tesla? Get you a nice Model S. You can get it for it's $100,000. You can get you don't even have to finance. You can pay for this thing 100 times. Just go one year and get out the old 1980 some Tahoe. Go and get you a nice Tesla. He wouldn't do it. But a year ago, he called me up and he said, I'm going to put $25,000 in Tesla stock. And I'm going to just hold it for the long haul. I ain't going to buy no Tesla. But I'm going to put about $25,000 worth of Tesla stock. When he bought the Tesla stock was worth $425. A few months later, the stock went up to over $2,000. Then it went through a 5-to-1 split. So that meant his $25,000 worth of stock split 5 ways. So for every 1 share he had, he now had 5 shares. As of today, and this has been a little bit over 13 months ago, his $25,000 of Tesla stock is now worth right at $300,000. So what he said was, I have now placed an order for a Cybertruck, a Tesla Cybertruck. The Tesla Cybertruck is going to cost about $80,000, $90,000. He said, but I now have my $300,000 worth of Tesla stock. I can pull out $90,000 to pay for the Cybertruck, and I still have $210,000 left. That's the difference. And my wife has a nice $61,000 car that was worth $61,000 then. 3 years later, that $61,000 car is now worth about $35,000. But my friend's $25,000 is now worth $300,000. That's the difference in the mode of thinking. But see, hanging around him, it's changed my mentality. I'm saying, sweetheart, next time, I don't know about getting you another car. So it's a difference in mentality. And I see it. And the rich think differently. The haves think differently from the have-nots. And so I just see it. So when you learn how to gear your mind, and he sends James and me stock tips all the time about what he's bought. And I remember C. Elijah was telling me about a stock. And I said, well, let me ask my friend about this stock. Because my guess is he knows. So I called him up and said, well, what about this stock here? He said, well, I bought that stock at $2 and I sold it at $6. Didn't he? Knew right off the bat. So he takes his money and just multiplies it. But he began little by little by little by little. And now he's got all this money just stored up and saved up. So it's a principle that hang out with the financially wise people, get a clear financial vision of where you want your money to go. Focus on the small things first and then make it grow. Buy assets, not liabilities. Proverbs 20:21 says, an inheritance quickly gained at the beginning will not be blessed at the end. Basically, it says, easy come, what? It's just, and it's a principle about that. When you get money real quick and easy, it doesn't even last. Put up the next picture. Easy come and just easy go. This is that investment principle. Google bought YouTube back in the early 2000s, and they paid $1.65 billion. You see what that second slide says? Now YouTube generates $1.65 billion in revenue every 3 weeks. That's the difference in the way the mind works. The rich folk focus on buying assets. And we focus a lot of times on buying stuff that just got a fancy name. And see, a Louis Vuitton bag doesn't hold your money any better than a cheap, no-name bag. Really doesn't. Matter of fact, the person with the no-name bag more than likely has a lot more money in the bag, because the person with the Louis Vuitton bag, all that money is the bag itself. So when you learn how to change your mentality, it will change what you eventually will accumulate. The fifth thing, and this is a spiritual principle, is to simply not fully focus on what you can get, but you have a portion that you focus on what you can give. Proverbs 11:24 says, one person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. When I went to New Orleans, James called me. He said, man, we get a text every day with the deposit from the company. So James says, he said, man, this money just rolling in. And it was. But I said, James, do you realize before I came to New Orleans, I heard God speak. He said, I want you to go get out of the bank $1,000 in 10 $100 bills. And while you're in New Orleans, I want you to bless 10 folk just $100. I had started giving out the $100. And James called me the next day and said the money was just rolling in. I said, James, the money is rolling in almost 1,000 times faster than I can give it out. There's a principle with that. And I had these 10 $100 bills. And as God would lead me, I would just give the money out. When I got to the hotel and I drove up, there's a lady, she rode up on a bicycle. And she said, she began telling me her story that she'd had some legal issues and she needed $7 for the Salvation Army to get her a room for the night. And some people, they have these con artist stories. You don't know whether they're true or not. But that's not my business. I was led, and I opened my wallet, and I took out one of them $100 bills, and I just said, I'm just led to bless you with this. Now, I don't know whether the lady was lying to me or not about her situation. What I do know, the lady started crying. I saw the tears start flowing down her eyes as she held that $100 bill. I don't know whether she was telling me the whole truth about her situation, but I saw her start crying. So each time, as you begin to bless people, something in the heavens opened up and money just started flowing back. Multiples of what I put out. There is a principle that you simply cannot hoard without giving and reach your full potential of blessing. So you have to learn to give. Don't just focus on just how much can I get. You focus on saying no matter what I get, a certain percent of this, I'm going to give back. And what I was finding, the stuff was just coming in faster and I can give it out. And that's a good position to be in. But most of us don't want to give out. All we want to do is just take in. And that's true with everything. It's not just money. It's just true with everything. All of us want to be praised. But maybe you need to do some praising. All of us want to be thanked, but maybe you need to do some thanking. All of us want to be appreciated. Maybe you need to do some appreciation. Don't just focus on what you can get. Life changes for you when you begin to focus on what you can give. The sixth thing is this. This is what psychologists have shown and have realized as they've done all of the tests and the surveys, is that experiences bring people more happiness than materials do. Some of you need to have more experiences out of life. It's nice to accumulate a lot of stuff, but don't get unbalanced with the stuff. Sometimes you need to just have some experiences. The experiences will produce more joy as a general principle than materials will be. So if you had a choice between buying a $1,400 Louis Vuitton bag and going on a $1,400 excursion or trip, take the trip. Psychologists say experiences will provide you more joy than material. Now, what you ought to do, take a $700 trip and save $700 and put that in an investment so that begins to multiply and to increase. Seventh thing is this. Proverbs 13:11 says this: dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. It has the two principles in it. It has the whoever gathers money little by little, that's the principle of focus on small things first, but it has the principle of being honest. It's one of the three secondary principles that my father always told us: be honest, work hard, keep good company. I have seen in business, we've had, particularly within Bronner Brothers, we've had three people who have just stolen some big money. One of them was in the paper. It was in the Constitution. The lady stole over $3 million from us over a period of probably 10 or 15 years. And when the FBI finally caught the lady, she was working at a grocery store as a cashier. All of the $3 million was gone. She had a real fine husband. I mean, he was fine looking. I ain't no, funny, but he was fine looking. He was a real fine, real built, fine looking husband. When they found the lady working at a cashier at the grocery store, all of the $3 million was gone. The husband was gone. Because when the money stopped, he left. So, and we've seen this with two others who stole all this money, and all three of them were women. That's the odd thing about it. They were all women. But they, normally men do all of this stealing, but that stuff equal opportunity now. So all of them, after they'd stolen all of this money, none of them had any of the money left at all. The money was gone. And then they had to deal with the prosecution. They had to deal with jail time. Once you got jail on your record, and once you got a felony on your record, it's hard for you to get a decent job. So that dishonest gain never provided them with any long-term satisfaction. So it's something that you need to understand. You cannot rip off anybody or anything and prosper. You absolutely cannot do it. There's a universal spiritual law that will come back and bite you down the road. So be honest. And the final thing is this with finance. Learn to listen to the one who owns it all. God is your ultimately money master without question. And when you develop a tune into God, He'll lead you, He will guide you in some of the things of what to do, how to get your money. Every bit of my money, I attribute to God. Now, I work hard, but I know a lot of folk work hard. Working hard does not guarantee you success. It improves your probability tremendously, but it doesn't guarantee you success. Almost every one of the big breakthroughs we've had in the company James and I own, every one of them we can point to a divine spark that caused that breakthrough. So we see God owns it all. God will even handle your finances. I remember before we even started the company and with Bronner Brothers, and I remember Bronner Brothers was going through getting ready to go through a real tough economic time. So we would get bonuses every year, and we knew we weren't going to get any bonuses. And I remember where I was. I was in a Sam's Club, and I put something in my basket, and then I realized our bonus might be cut out. Let me put this thing back. And I heard God speak, and He said, "Don't you change your spending habits one bit." And I said, "You sure about this, Lord? I need to do what's wise here. This money getting ready to get cut off. I need to do what's wise." And He said, "Don't change your spending habits one bit." And sometimes you have to really know this is God when God is telling you to do something don't make sense. You have to, now see, if it's wisdom, you don't even have to check it. But when God is telling you to do something that doesn't make practical, wise sense, you need to really make sure that's God. Because I said, Lord, this goes against all logic. If my money's getting ready to cut, my expenses need to cut. He said, don't you change your spending habits one bit. And I saw money grow or shrink based on what I needed. God controls it all. So when you understand true finance, when you're in covenant with God, he'll make sure you have sufficiency. And one thing God spoke to me, he said, anything beyond sufficiency is insignificant. And it takes some living to understand that. As long as you have sufficiency, you have enough. Anything beyond that, what you truly was sufficient for you. Now, it takes a greater amount of sufficiency for some people than others. But he said anything beyond sufficiency is insignificant. I understand that now. So finance it's a big thing. But if you can just listen and follow these rules. Number one, hang out with financially wise people. Number two, get a clear financial vision. Where do you want to be with your finances 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be next year? Get a clear financial vision. God even has given me, I got a limit on how much money I can earn. I got a clear financial vision, and I got it from God. Go to God. Don't just ask me, Lord, just help me make more money. Just help me to make more. No. Get a clear financial vision. Hang out with financially wise people. Get a clear financial vision. Focus on small things first. Handle the little things, and the big things will handle themselves. Buy assets, not liabilities. Learn that experiences will usually bring more happiness than materials. Be honest, and listen to the one who owns it all. Finance is a big deal in the modern world, but God controls it all. But you got to be in tune with God for your finances to be in control and to be proper. I thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word. You can go to brothersoftheword.com and listen to the entire series, The 7 Thorns of Life, absolutely free of charge, and you can send it to a friend free of charge. Thank you for joining us today at Brothers of the Word, because, brother, you need the Word. Amen.